Today's hot topic here on the Morning Kick Around. I'm Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. The U.S. Open Cup final, LAFC versus Sporting KC. But today's topic is, did MLS kill the Open Cup? Only 8 or 9 teams from MLS entered the competition, and a big draw of the competition in general for soccer fans is the competition between leagues. Jason, has MLS killed this competition?
Killed it is heavy. I know that we're choosing that word because it's more evocative than saying, did MLS maim the Open Cup? But if we're talking about on a scale of injury, I don't think MLS killed the Open Cup, but I do think MLS did some serious damage to the interest levels for a lot of people, and they certainly pissed off a lot of fans of lower division soccer in the United States. I mean, the uproar. You and I live in the soccer bubble. Everybody watching this show probably lives in an American soccer bubble, and things feel bigger than they are outside of that bubble. And I think that the uproar over how MLS handled themselves this year was big for American soccer fans, but it barely made a ripple anywhere else. And that's a little sad, right? That's certainly something I lament. Like, I wish the Open Cup was a bigger deal, the kind of thing that would make the debate shows on the major sports networks, but that's really not where we're at. I do think it's made a couple of television shows where there are some or some radio shows where some American soccer fans involved, but it's not the thing that has, like, in a country, in a different country with a stronger soccer culture and a deeper connection to something like the Open Cup or their national competition, their Open Cup competition. This would have been bloody murder, would have been cried out over the way MLS handled themselves. And I did put this together, so let's take a little review here. MLS this year, they basically threatened to pull out of the competition. They didn't like the way it was going. That's Don Garber's words, not mine. 8 of 26 American clubs entered their first teams, bunch of second teams. No MLS teams in the CONCACAF Champions Cup played their first team in the Open Cup. And 9 MLS teams entered MLS Next Pro teams. That was the alternative. With DC United, that's what a joke. DC United wasn't even able to participate because they don't have an MLS Next Pro team right now. They had Loudoun United. They sold Loudoun United. They're going to start a team in Baltimore apparently, but they haven't gotten that off the ground. So how can you say this is a fully built out, the fully realized American soccer Open Cup tournament if you have a team that doesn't even play in it? Like, or isn't represented in any way, shape, or form? And again, that's even before we get to how ridiculous is it that MLS was like, no, we're going to send our kids. We're going to send a bunch of guys who don't even have pro contracts to play in this thing to represent us. This was a tantrum that MLS threw. And again, I think it's damaged the tournament. It certainly makes me less interested this season.
Yeah, interest has to be down, and definitely took the wind out of a lot of sales of folks that are supporters of teams not in MLS. Just imagine overseas if only the bottom 8 teams in the Premier League participated in the FA Cup. Like, that would absolutely destroy that competition. Definitely, at least as far as perception, at the very least. And if you talk to American soccer fans, many of their favorite memories are when MLS teams take on teams from other leagues, especially when an MLS team goes to a venue of another team. It just kind of sparks some life into that quote unquote market, or for that fan base, gets people excited in a completely different way than just an in-league matchup would do. And, it seems even a little bit more unfair, and it could get under the skin of soccer fans more, as the justification of this was scheduling conflicts and whatnot, but they were self-inflicted scheduling conflicts by the entrance of the League's Cup. And even teams even added additional international friendlies during that period as well. So a lot of those reasons kind of fall flat.
Yeah, look, this is clearly, again, you kind of have to be cynical if you are an American soccer fan. And I do think it's okay to like MLS and like your MLS team and appreciate the growth of the league and the stadiums that it's built and all these things that have come with MLS over the past 25 or 30 years now. And also say, they're jerks, right? They especially at this point in the evolution of MLS and the history of American soccer, Major League Soccer throws its weight around in a way that feels unfair and wrong. And this is one of those examples, right? MLS does not control the U.S. Open Cup. They don't sell the broadcast rights. They don't gain anything from this competition monetarily, directly, right? And you can even unspool this and think, well, would this be happening if Soccer United Marketing was still handling things for U.S. Soccer, a relationship that lasted for a long time? That relationship no longer exists. U.S. Soccer is doing their own thing. MLS is sort of therefore cut out of the Open Cup marketing and the broadcast rights and everything else. They're not getting any piece of that. And here they are saying, we don't really like this competition anymore. We think it's bad. We don't want to play in it. Do you not want to play in it because fixture congestion, as you said, or competitions? There's too many things going on. Again, after you've created a whole new competition, played over a month where you pause your. Is it that, or is it just that you aren't getting paid at all from this? And I said this at the time, Robert, and I still think this is probably true on some level, that Apple TV executives, after Major League Soccer signed their deal to move their product to Apple TV and MLS Season Pass, they saw Lionel Messi arrived. League Cup was massive last year for them. It was like the first real big thing for Apple TV Plus, with the biggest player on the planet coming and winning that competition. And then he was also in the Open Cup, and you remember they went all the way to the final against Houston. And I'm wondering if those Apple TV executives were like, "Hey Don, why is Lionel Messi playing in a competition we have nothing? Why is he playing in somebody else's competition? We're not benefiting from this." Now, obviously, Apple TV has the Open Cup now, but at the time, you wonder if there was like, "Wait a second, Don, we paid you all this money to put your product and your players on our network, on our streaming platform, and here it is playing on somebody else's platform."
I
How
think he
is
was
that
like
possible?
a YouTube stream from the Federation, I believe, that Leo Messi was playing on. Yeah, just a free stream.
Something like that. Something I think Paramount picked it up. I want to remember. I want to say that Paramount Plus picked it up last season, but somebody in the chat's going to remember that for us. But regardless, it feels sort of nakedly about control of the soccer product that America is putting out, and this is a competition that falls outside of MLS's purview, and they have decided to throw their weight around to push U.S. soccer around on this. And, there were lots of people saying that the nuclear option should be deployed. If MLS doesn't want to participate in the Open Cup, well, then you decertify the league, right? You pull their sanctioning, because it's right there in the bylaws of U.S. soccer that in order to be a sanctioned professional outdoor men's first division league, you have to play in the Open Cup. And did they find a way? Did they get a pass this season? And honestly, here we are on the day of the final with two teams who entered their first teams because they were not among the group that was in the Champions Cup or having to send a second team. And this is going to feel nominally like a normal U.S. Open Cup final. Two MLS first teams are playing for the trophy. But everything that led up to this moment is very different and felt very different. And it was it was a tragedy on some level that we were watching those early rounds unfold with a joke, with MLS second teams, MLS Next Pro teams playing in the competition instead of MLS first teams.
Nothing gets or historically got the lower league soccer kingdom or nerddom excited than those lower or those early round games where the surviving non-MLS teams got those matchups against MLS teams. And some of my favorite memories, I am in the Detroit metro area, no MLS team within 4 or 5 hours of my location. So MLS doesn't really hit the radar at all in this area, but DCFC in the USL championship, they have carved out an amazing niche, one of the best stories in American soccer, but DCFC didn't truly hit the local mainstream, like the 10 o'clock news and, the local sports writers didn't really talk about it until the Columbus Crew came to town 2 years ago. And then for a
Right.
couple news cycles, when they beat Columbus, just even the fact when it was announced, they were in the main news cycle. And so it does enrich and, what do you call
Absolutely.
it? Stimulate those
Absolutely.
teams and those quote unquote markets in the non-MLS cities. And it's the competition is one of the few things in American soccer where everyone is pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And again, there's this notion that MLS has benefited quite a bit from the largesse of U.S. soccer, from a lot of things in its first, 15, 20 years before it got to this place of being able to be the bully on the block and say, well, we've got all the money and we've got all the stadiums and we all got all the big players. There was a long time when it was a question if MLS could survive, and it was kind of the whole of American soccer. I don't mean the fandom, but the whole of the American soccer apparatus kind of had to support MLS and prop it up. And here you are in 2024, and instead of playing nice and paying it back on some level by being willing to go to places like Detroit or even lower down the ladder and bring your weight and your fame and popularity to the table to support those lower division teams by playing against them in this competition, you said, nope, we're going to take half our ball or 3/4 of our ball and go home, which is just not a good look for Major League Soccer.
It's quite the asterisk on the competition, especially the DC United. The caveat to, we're going to enter our backup team that doesn't exist.
That's a team that has won this competition multiple times.
No respect.
They're not even entered. That's a joke. They're not even entered in any form, and that's nonsense. That's absolutely nonsense.
Before we kind of move on from the Open Cup topic, what we already talked about one of mine 2 years ago when Columbus Crew came to Hamtramck, Michigan, and lost 2-1. Like I said, big news. Hit the local news cycle. What is one of your personal favorite Open Cup memories or stories?
Well, I have to think about. I have to think about it a little bit. I'm trying to think of a final that I really enjoyed, and it's been a little while since I can think of one that was like, wow, that final. I don't think we've done a good job. This is on the Open Cup. It's on U.S. Soccer, absolutely, and there's a lot of criticism, by the way, to throw around at U.S. Soccer for how they've promoted this competition, how they've handled broadcasting rights and everything else. But the final should be this much bigger deal, and they really don't stick out. What sticks out for me is the U.S. Open Cup match between Seattle and Portland. Again, I think this was in Tukwila, Washington, at Starfire Sports Complex. I want to say 2015, something like that. There were a bunch of cards being shown, and Clint Dempsey wasn't having it with the center referee. Ripped the notebook out of the center referee's hands, then was sent off. I mean, I can't remember the sequence of events. Was he sent off before he ripped the notebook out of the referee's hands, or was it before? Obviously, you can't do that. He did not seem very happy stomping off the field. And I think that it has taken on this mythical resonance among Seattle fans, and they call it the red card wedding, I think is what they call that, because there's a Game of Thrones reference in there because there was the red wedding and the Game of Thrones.
I remember seeing that,
story.
and I was like, he must have. Had to have been a long suspension. I've never seen anything like that or since.
There was for years after that. So he did get a multiple game suspension, and somebody can check me on this too. We're doing a lot of fact check Jason today because my memory is not perfect. But there was this thing about Clint Dempsey is suspended, or he didn't finish his suspension in the Open Cup before he retired. So here in 2024, I think people even say stuff like, "Oh, Clint Dempsey is still suspended from the Open Cup." I don't think that's technically true. I think there's either he fulfilled it or something happened. But regardless, it's still funny to say. Like, it's still interesting to think that Clint Dempsey could still be suspended from the Open Cup. Like, if he decided to come out of retirement and play for one of these amateur teams, which occasionally happens, right? You'll see a former MLS or a former pro pop up in an amateur team somewhere and go, oh, okay. That guy wants one more. I mean, what was it this year? I mean, that was one of the good stories this year, right? Sasha Kljestan going and playing for what was the name of the team? Do you remember this, Robert?
Oh, was it county, something county in California? Was it
No, he was
Orange
playing.
County?
He played out in Orange County against Orange County because he was California based, and that was an easy home game for him to play in. But he was playing for a team in the middle of the country. Surprised the chat's just not coming at me with this right now and letting me know, because some of you definitely know what I'm talking about here. So let me see if
Des
I can
Moines
figure.
Menace.
There you go, Des Moines. I should have
One of
known.
one of USL2's powerhouses.
That's right. He played for the Des Moines Menace in the Open Cup and brought a couple of his friends with him at one point, from Major League Soccer, former MLS guys. So
And another one like that, Sasha or Justin Miram played for the Michigan Stars this year.
okay, well, they a Michigan guy playing for the Michigan Stars.
And funny quirks of suspension, the owner of the Michigan Stars had to sit out a recent Open Cup from a red card he got in California in like 2010, 10 years ago. So another quirk of the competition is random long memories.
I've heard some things about the owner of the Michigan Stars, but I'm not going to say them because I don't want to get sued. So I'm just going to move on here. But yeah, that's an interesting one to bring up as well. Oh yeah, Roger Espinoza, second appearance on the show, played again. He had retired from Major League Soccer and Sporting Kansas City. He played in the round the second round that Sasha Kleshtin played in. It looks like AJ De La Garza was also involved. So yeah, there you go.
So
That's fun.
With all that said, lots of good memories. Another one I want to shout out before we move on. One of my favorite Open Cup memories, because I had a great time watching it and the game was fantastic, was 2017 Chicago Fire at Nippert Stadium, FC Cincinnati. FC Cincinnati was on a great run in the USL at that point. They had obviously made it to the later stages of the competition. That stadium was absolutely rocking. That was some end-to-end stuff. I'm sure Cincinnati fans might even call that the Mitch Hildebrand game. He shut out the Fire when they were probably in their best moment in the last 10, 15 years, when they had Schweinsteiger, Nemanja Nikolic, and a lot of good players. And they were at the height of their powers at that time, held 0-0, and Cincinnati went on to win in penalties. That was edge of the seat stuff.
Was that a John Harkes led FC Cincinnati team? Was he still in charge at that point? I don't know. He had some moments.
So.
Johnny Harkes had some moments. Just want to mention him because why not? Why wouldn't you mention an American soccer legend? So there you go. Okay, good stuff.
I do remember Corbin Bone played for that Cincinnati team.
Corbin Bone. All right.
But the 2024 edition Open Cup final tonight at 10:30 Eastern, LAFC versus Sporting Kansas City, going for their 5th